Page 194 of The Unfolding is the story of Jenn Pooler.
I lost a lot of trust in the world. I lost a lot of trust in people. And probably, if I'm honest, some trust in God. And so my anger was like, I have to even more so control everything. I have to even more so rely on myself because I can't trust anything that I used to know.
God's story has been unfolding.
Since the beginning of time.
He invites you to be a part of it.
Another page in The Unfolding.
Hi, this is Meredith Foster. Jenn Pooler had always tried to play by the rules. If she did what she was supposed to do, if she checked all the boxes, then life should be good, right? God would surely bless her and protect her from bad things. It's a line of reasoning that we often believe without even realizing it. But when Jenn was 17, an accident changed her life. It set up a collision between her attempts at controlling life, and really it was controlling God through her good behavior, and the reality that sometimes God allows difficult things in our lives. Jenn had worked so hard to do things right, and now everything seemed to have gone wrong.
I grew up in a Christian home. I was baptized at age 3.
Wow.
I thought I had this faith thing figured out. It's easy. I don't know why people have struggles with this because I've just done it my whole life and I don't know any different. And grew up even going to private school for quite a few years and then moved to the public schools, but still was like, this is easy. I was still involved in Sunday school and youth group and church all the time. In high school, I was leading faith-based groups at my high school too.
Wow.
So I'm like, I got this God thing figured out. My faith is rock solid. There is no question. I'm steady. I'm strong.
So you were 17 years old. Give me the context. You were on a trip with your band?
Yeah, I was involved in high school band. We were around the Kansas City area, and we went to Colorado to do a competition. And so we were there for some fun days, but also for some competition days as the band. 32 people were on our bus, and we were headed back from that competition, traveling across Colorado and Kansas to come back home.
So tell me what's happening on the bus when this happened. What was going on?
I was just thinking how I wish that we could teleport home, right? I want to get home so fast. When you're done with a trip, you're like, I want to be home. I just want to be in my own bed. I want to be done with traveling. And I was so tired from this fun, exciting, exhausting trip. And so I was like, can we just be home so quickly? That would be so nice. But I know we had hours to go. And I was starting to fall asleep and I had just woken up from a little nap right before the accident happened. What happened was, in Colorado, it often snows. And it was fine, beautiful days while we were there. But on the way back, it had started to snow and all the traffic slowed down. And there was a truck that didn't get the memo and didn't slow down. Wow. And it didn't slow down in time, at least. And so this was a truck that had a trailer on the back, a 1-ton truck with a fifth wheel trailer, and it jackknifed. And the trailer went into the back of the bus.
Oh, my goodness. And where were you sitting?
I was sitting in the back of the bus.
Do you remember the accident itself?
I remember every single second and detail until I was taken into surgery. So as the accident happened, I look outside, I see it snowing. I'm like, oh, it's snowing. I notice that we're slowing down. I start to hear loud noises and start to feel myself being pushed forward as the trailer is pushing into the back of the bus. It's pushing all of those pieces of the bus into the back of my chair. And I was sitting with another friend and we were sitting at a table. It was a chartered bus and they have the bathrooms and then they have the tables and they have seats that face both directions. And we were sitting at the table and the table went down and actually the metal of the table wrapped around my legs and crushed my legs.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm being pushed with the table forward. And then I can see a gaping hole in the side of the bus and it's starting to snow in on me. The bus moves to the median between the different highways and comes to a complete stop. And I'm just trapped. I'm just trapped on this bus.
Were other people injured? Were people screaming? Or what was the atmosphere like?
I don't remember screaming happening while it was going on. I remember thinking, oh no, something is happening. I didn't know what. There were 32 people on the bus, one person severely injured. You're welcome. I took it for the team.
Nobody else severely injured?
There were a few scrapes and bruises. The man sitting next to me, he ended up walking with crutches for about 2 weeks. But other than that, no major injuries happened.
So it was really all about where you were sitting on the bus?
Yes.
You just happened to be in the worst place.
Yeah, don't sit in the back of the bus. This is the lesson I learned. No, I mean, it's just a coincidence that just what happened. For years, that was a struggle, but I've been on buses since then. I've sat in the back of buses since then, and it's okay. The first time it was hard, but I think it's just a coincidence, just one of those things that happens.
The bus moves to the median. You can see a gaping hole. When did you realize that you were injured?
So I felt something wrong with my knee. Well, I could see that I was like entangled in this metal, right? But I couldn't see anything wrong with me. My knee looked a little strange, my left knee. And I thought, something's wrong there, but I didn't feel the pain. I just felt like something was weird. God blessed that so well that I had so much adrenaline and I said a lot of crazy things, but I didn't feel the pain. People quickly got off the bus. One of the chaperones came back to me and was with me until the EMTs could arrive, the ambulance could arrive. But I remember being trapped on this bus, wrapped in the metal, knowing something's wrong with my knee. They could see my right leg sticking out of the skin. My bone on my right leg, I broke both of those bones. One of them I broke in 2 different places, technically 3 different places. And I didn't know it. I couldn't see it. Thank the Lord, I didn't ever see it. I didn't know. I just felt my knee felt weird on my left knee. I had actually dislocated my left knee and tore every ligament there too. So both legs were shot. I also fractured my hip and my pelvic bone at the same time too.
Oh my goodness. Okay, so make sure I am understanding. So the people on the bus with you, they could see the extent of your injuries?
And I could not.
You had no idea.
I was kind of trapped at a weird angle where the upper half of my body was pushed farther forward and the metal was just holding me in place. And so I was just trapped on the bus and it's snowing in on me and I'm watching the snow. And I turn to the chaperone and I say, I know why this happened. And she says, what? She's just trying to calm me down and just wait for the ambulance to get there. And she said, why do you think this happened? And I said, we were on this trip for 4 days. I didn't open my Bible once, not once on this whole trip. And she said, I don't think that's why this happened.
Do you remember saying that?
I remember saying that. I remember looking at the snow, looking at the hole and going, I know why this happened.
Was that indicative of your view of God? Like you got to do things correctly in order to experience blessing?
Up until that point, it was about structure. It was about tradition. It was about rules.
I'm kind of filling in the blank in my mind about what kind of a person you were. Were you very I don't know if type A is the right word, but the box checker kind of person? Like I got to do all the right things?
Yeah. When it came to my faith, I was a box checker. I thought everything had to be correct. I grew up in a religion that it was about the laws of the religion. It wasn't necessarily about the relationship so much, but about these are the things we do and this is tradition and these are the rules and we follow those. And so I did feel like that structure was important and needed in my life for me to be close to God.
And so because you'd taken a 3-day hiatus from reading your Bible,
you get in a big bus accident. You break lots of bones and dislocate your knee and it's all part of it, read that Bible.
It's funny now, but there are a lot of people who live under that. We don't necessarily articulate it that way. But when bad things happen, the first thing we do is
we blame God.
Yeah, right. Or we're thinking he's mad because we didn't do X, Y, or Z.
Because I did something wrong. He did this because I didn't do this, this, and this. I was just like, nope, that's why it happened. It happened because I didn't open my Bible this whole trip. I had fun and we did the competition. I wasn't focused on God this whole trip.
So what happened next in your story?
So then the EMTs arrived, the ambulance arrives, and I was on the window side of the seat. So, in a chartered bus, there's 2 seats, and I was on the window side. And when they brought in a stretcher, they have to lay it across the seats and needed me to kind of scoot over. They had to pry the metal off first. So they pry the metal off away from me. Small detail.
Right.
And they get that off. And I'm the whole time going, my knee, there's something wrong with my knee. It feels weird. It looks weird. It didn't hurt. It just felt weird. And they're going, no, it's your leg. We know it's your leg. We can see it. But they had me scoot from the right seat by the window to the left seat to get onto the stretcher because there was no way to get in there to me. When you scoot, what do? You put your hands down, you step with your leg and you push. So I did that with my right leg because my knee was what felt wrong to me.
Oh my goodness.
And when that happened, I felt, this might be too gory for you, but I felt the bones feel like jello in my right leg. I felt it just kind of slosh apart, separate. I knew then, okay, no, something's wrong with that leg too.
That had to be a sensation you'd never felt before, I'm guessing.
Never felt before, but I've always described it since then as jello. Like if you just imagine that your whole leg is jello and you just feel that slide in the wrong spot and then back.
Do you remember processing that at all? Or was it there's just adrenaline and so much going on?
I just remember going, yeah, there must be something wrong with that too, but not panicking about it. I didn't ever see it. I'm so thankful for the Lord not letting me see that because that would have definitely sent me in a panic, I think.
Yeah.
I definitely felt that something was not right.
And this is all for a 17-year-old. I just keep picturing it. I mean, a teenager.
I was really worried that my camera that I had brought on the trip was destroyed now because it had got smashed in the luggage area. And so now I had no pictures from this trip. That's where my mind was. Like, you don't think rationally during these kinds of situations.
No, and maybe that's good.
Yeah.
To be distracted about something like that.
It's a blessing. Yeah. They put on the stretcher, I slide across, and then they put the stretcher on top of these seats on the chartered bus. And there's like that low ceiling. So I put my hand up and like held myself in place. I didn't need to. There was no need for that. But I felt like I need secure. I feel very insecure on this stretcher on the top of the seats. I'm going to fall. So I put my hand up and they're like, we've got you. You're fine. But I had zero trust of anyone at that point. And so I did that. And then I said, no, you can't carry me off this bus. I'll walk. And they're like, and you obviously can't walk. And I was like, I'll crawl. I'll do something. You can't carry me off this bus because to get off of a chartered bus, there's those steep, big stairs. And I'm on a stretcher. Yeah. And they have to carry me down that angle of those big stairs. And I was so terrified of that. I was like, you're going to drop me. And I can't handle that. Like, I'll just get off the bus a different way. It's fine. And they're like, we do this for a living. It's fine. Well, we got you. It's fine. It was that adrenaline. I just said a bunch of crazy things the rest of the day. I think it was all the adrenaline going. Then we got to the ambulance. And I remember being carried through the snow. It's still snowing. Into the median where the ambulance was, and they put me in the ambulance, and I was really, really thirsty. I was begging for a drink, and they couldn't give me one. They couldn't get IVs started. They couldn't get medication started. None of that was happening. But I kept telling them, hey, don't go fast. Don't speed. Just take your time. I cannot handle another accident today, so we're going to need to go slow and just be careful because it's snowing, and I just don't want you to get hurt, and I don't want anybody else to get like. I just kept telling them that.
I detect that you were a person who liked to control details, that you like to be in control. Very interesting.
100%, always. Still to this day, I feel like I have to control situations and environments, and I have to see things and understand them and know every detail.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that makes sense with your view of God, because if I do X, Y, and Z and check those off the list, that is a measure of control. Somehow you're controlling God by doing those things. It's just really interesting.
I'm controlling God's view of me and how he will treat me if I follow his rules and I check those boxes.
Okay, so that's the girl on the stretcher getting loaded into the ambulance.
Telling them not to speed. They're like, we're used to going fast. It's fine. We'll get you there. It's okay. We get to a hospital. We are in eastern Colorado. There are small towns around. So they got us to the closest small town hospital. And as soon as they got me into the hospital, that hospital said, no, thank you. We cannot handle this. This is too much trauma. She needs to go somewhere else. So they took me out of that hospital into another ambulance. And that ambulance is driving to meet a helicopter.
Did you know that was what was happening?
They told me that. And then I had another comical response, trying to instruct them on how things should go. And I told them that I could not handle riding underneath the helicopter because my nerves couldn't handle that. I don't like heights. I can't be underneath the helicopter. I just can't handle that. We're going to be fine at this hospital. And they're like, we'll put you in the helicopter, not underneath. This is not like a water rescue or something. You're going to be in it. It'll be fine. Still trying to control the situation.
Oh my goodness. So by this point, are you feeling pain?
I was not feeling pain. I was very, very thirsty. Like I've never been that thirsty in my life. And I think it was because of blood loss and dehydration and all of that. And maybe the adrenaline mixed with that. I don't know. Don't know if that affects it, but I was incredibly thirsty and no one would give me any water or anything because they're like, we're going to need to do surgery immediately. We need to get IVs going. as I got to the helicopter, they were finally able to get an IV in. And I was starting to get medicine and all of the things I needed then.
Okay, when you get to the helicopter, I'm just trying to figure out timeline. How long was that approximately after the accident?
I don't know for sure. I would say maybe an hour.
Oh, so pretty fast. Okay.
It was pretty fast. I don't remember there being long pauses in any of this. I remember briefly being in the first hospital and that being very quick of, nope, this is more severe than we can handle. She's got to go.
Wow.
And we quickly got in another ambulance and drove for a little ways to go meet this helicopter to fly me to Denver.
So on the helicopter, were you afraid?
I was scared going to the helicopter because I was still not convinced that I wasn't going under the helicopter. But I saw the snow again. I just kept seeing the snow the whole time. But I saw the snow, and for some reason, that's a vivid memory that I can't erase. Laying down on the stretcher or whatever, from the ambulance to the helicopter, I saw the snow coming down, and then I can see the helicopter, kind of as you go inside the cockpit or the whatever the inside is called, I could see the snow like disappear as I went underneath the hood of the helicopter. I don't remember most of the helicopter ride. That's when the medication started to kick in, so I started to zone out a little bit there.
Was there anywhere in that way where you were thinking, praying, or thoughts toward God and that you recall?
No, I just knew that it was my fault that this happened. I was set on this is my fault because I hadn't read my Bible, because I hadn't done the right things, that this is why this happened. I wasn't praying. I wasn't focused on God at all. And I was just like, you did this to yourself. So we arrive at a hospital in Denver that could handle me. And I don't remember all of the details, but I remember finally getting a drink. But it was this nasty stuff they thought was lemonade, which is not lemonade. And it was so that they could do CAT scans and things. And so I had to drink this drink stuff. But I was grateful they had my parents on the phone because I'm underage. They couldn't do surgery on me. My parents were in Kansas City at home, got the call from the school. There's been an accident. Your daughter's being helicoptered to Denver. They quickly got bags, went to the airport, were trying to fly out to go to Denver. Luckily, the hospital caught them before they got on the plane, said, can we get your permission to do surgery on your daughter? Wow. This is the kind of surgery we want to do. These are all the things we need to do. We need to do them now. And so they gave approval to do that. And they let me talk to him for like a brief second. And I'm sure I said crazy things. I don't remember exactly. I remember getting the phone and being like, hey, like, we're good. I drank this lemonade stuff. And they're panicking and, because they just heard some terrible news, the worst news as a parent, some of the worst news that you can get. And I'm like, guess we're going to do surgery.
That probably was a little bit reassuring, just that you were lucid enough to talk at the very least. Oh, I can't imagine that as parents.
That's one of the things that I wish I could undo. I can't undo any of this. And I don't actually wish to undo most of it, oddly enough, but I do wish I could undo the feelings they must have felt. Getting that phone call, trying to rush to get on an airplane, to fly, to like all of those emotions until they could get to me had to have just been so strong and so difficult that I wish I could undo that. So I go into surgery. I don't remember most of that. The only thing I know, and they were just going to work on my right leg to put the bones back together and put a rod in there down the center of the big bone to kind of hold it in place. And they said, we'll worry about the knee later. We're going to focus on the leg right now. And so they just put a brace on the knee, on my left knee, and we're working on my right leg to try to put that back together. And so they did that surgery. I don't remember most of that surgery. I finally had medication. The next thing I remember, I wake up in ICU with a priest standing over me. Yeah, I have no family around. I had no friends around. The chaperones weren't allowed to come with me. And so they sent a priest in to be with me. And I woke up with this priest standing over me. And I said, I'm not dead yet.
Again, asserting control, just so you know.
Right? Just so you know, I'm fine. Thank you. That was a little terrifying.
I was going to say, did that scare you?
That did scare me. I don't feel like I was super scared through the whole thing, but I was scared at that point to wake up with an unknown person and I could see the collar. I could see it was a priest standing over me. And I could see I was in an ICU room and it felt very scary at that point.
Yeah, I'm sure you were wondering, is there more going on than I'm aware of?
Right.
How quickly did you get reassured or find out enough information to know I'm not dying here?
It was pretty quickly. Once I was awake, the nurses and things came in. I had a little lion brought to me from the gift shop that my cousin had actually called in and had delivered. And that lion was actually very vital to me. It was something I took to every appointment and every doctor's visit from then on because it was the comfort. It was something I could cover my face when I felt uncomfortable, or I could squeeze. And so until my family got there, that was my family. That was my support system, was this little stuffed lion.
Isn't it amazing how something so small turns out to be so important?
Yeah.
You would never guess.
There's a funny thing I didn't realize until just recently, that my dad and I for years have had a saying about a lion. In fact, I have a little figurine on my desk. He has a little lion figurine on his desk. This might make me cry. But for years, my dad and I have said, how about them lions, to each other? And it means I love you. Without having to say I love you, it means I love you. And when I moved away to take a job that was away from my family, he gave me that lion and said, put it on your desk so you know I love you and I'm proud of you whenever you see it. And I gave him one as well. And then to realize that I got a lion in the hospital out of any, stuffed animal it could have been, that it was a lion that whole time. I didn't put that together till just recently. That has to be a God thing where God was like, you need this comfort to know that you're loved right now. And so it was a lion. Could have been a panda or anything, but it was a lion.
How long was it until your parents got there? Somebody else was with you?
So my parents were the first to get there and to be with me. I was by myself for quite a while. I went maybe a couple hours after waking up in ICU, and then they were able to arrive.
I'm sure that was emotional for them. Was it emotional for you when they got there?
Oh, yeah. That's when it hits. When you meet your family, I've noticed that in any traumatic experience or any difficult experience, I can hold it together until I'm with my family. And then once they're around, that's when my emotions I let myself feel them. I allow it to let my guard down a little bit because I've got my protective system with me, my support system with me.
Yeah, and you finally had a safe space to do that.
Yeah.
Jen's family was finally there. She could at last feel safe enough to let down her guard, yet she was still trying to control her circumstances. But physical and emotional healing were not things she could control.
In a nutshell, I spent a month in the hospital in Denver. They just worked on my right leg. They put a brace on my left knee and said, you can do surgery on that when you get home. We want to get you one leg that's working to get you home. The hip and pelvic fracture will heal on their own. There was nothing we needed to do for that. I had to have blood transfusions. I had to have platelets, all sorts of things like that. I had to have a couple different surgeries to help avoid blood clots and stuff like that. They had to put in some filters. So those were interesting experiences. But a month in the hospital in Denver, my parents lived in a hotel room in, a state away from where they're used to, with a rental car, all of that, so that they could be with me, and often would stay in the hospital with me, one of them each night, to just be there to comfort me. I worked through physical therapy for that month. I did a little bit of schoolwork, but not much. The teachers kind of excused a lot of that.
Were you a junior or a senior when this happened?
I was a junior.
A junior. And where was it in the school year?
This was in March. It was over spring break.
So you were out for the rest of the year, I take it.
I ended up going back in a wheelchair for part of May. We spent a month in the hospital there, did, a couple of surgeries to stave off blood clots, to work on the leg, that kind of stuff. And then they thought they had me in a good place to go home. Every day it's, can we go home? Can we go home? Can we go home? Couldn't go home. Oddly enough, I don't remember opening my Bible that month in the hospital either, which is really strange since that was the structure I felt like I needed. But after that month, my mom flew home early to get the house ready. We didn't have a bedroom on the main floor, and I wouldn't be able to do stairs. So she went to kind of set up a fake bedroom downstairs, and my dad stayed with me, and him and I were like a one-man band going through the airport with crutches and braces and a wheelchair and x-rays and things to bring it all to doctors in Kansas when we were flying back.
So you mentioned that you don't remember opening your Bible. Do you remember anything about just sort of relationship with God or praying or thoughts toward him during the hospital stay?
I remember feeling like my faith was very shaken. I was very unsteady. I was very fearful about everything in life then. I went from this solid rock, no worries in life, no concern with my faith, no doubts. And then I went into really shaky time where I did not feel strong in my faith. I felt like maybe I had been fake or something. I felt like it was unsteady. I was very angry then too. Angry at the other driver, angry that this happened, angry that I was going to, from now on, have to deal with this. For years and years to come and the rest of my life, really. So I was full of anger.
At what point did you have sort of a prognosis of this is going to be a long haul? When did you realize that?
I think right away, because they said, we can't do both legs right now. We'll do this one and it will hopefully heal. And then we'll do your knee later. You'll have to have a different doctor do that. And you may have to have more surgeries on your leg down the road. I was very humbled by the whole thing. I had to learn to ask for help, which is still a struggle today. I'm very independent and want to control things. So asking for help, I needed help with everything. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. I needed help with everything. And that was really hard. That was humbling for sure.
Yeah, it's part of that working that desire to control everything out of you. I'm sure that was a big...
Yeah. I think part of it, I don't think this is why it happened, but I think part of it was to humble me. God used this to humble me, to help me learn to ask for help, to make me rely on him through every step, literal step and spiritual step and whatever figurative step. It made me really lean on him and trust him and lean on other people too. To jump ahead, I have had 9 surgeries on my right leg. And to this day, it is still broken. It is 22 years later. I've had those 9 surgeries on the one leg. I've had 12 surgeries total, I think.
Wow.
I have a rod down the center of the tibia, the big bone in my right leg, and I have a plate and pins and screws on the fibula in my leg. They've taken bone from my hip to try to put that in my fibula and make that grow as well, and it would not grow. All different surgeries, all different weird attempts at different ways. I've gone through 4 or 5 different orthopedic specialists, and they've all just given up and said, it's not going to happen. It's not going to grow.
It's not going to heal.
Yep.
Did the accident, and then of course, what you're going to be dealing with, this long-term issue with struggling with healing, did it change what you, well, it had to have changed what you thought you were going to do with your life, but I'm curious just about, did you have specific plans that you realized that's not going to happen?
I had people tell me, you're not going to be able to stand for long periods of time. You're going to have a job where you can sit. You're going to have a career where you can take it easy. You're not going to be able to do things that you thought you could do because, well, at first they said, you're not going to be able to walk right again. It's not going to happen. And then I was determined to prove them wrong. And I can walk and I can stand. Now, I do still have struggles to this day with my right leg and sometimes with my knee, even with all the ligaments have been replaced there. But there's still some days that are struggles, but I can walk, I can stand, I can do normal things. Just sometimes I have some pain.
Well, and even as a 17-year-old marching band student, right? You were a marching band?
Yeah.
So did that mean that's gone?
I had to shift to playing the cymbals on the sideline. I learned the Star Spangled Banner cymbal part real well. I was real good at that. But yeah, it meant that I had to adjust things, especially for the next couple of years.
Wow.
But even knowing that, I used to play volleyball, I used to be involved in different things, and you had to limit those things now.
Wow.
My knee doctor told me, you can never play football. And that broke my heart. No, I wasn't going to go play football, but he was like, you have to be careful with your knee. You can't be doing things like that.
And how did news like that, you mentioned that you were angry.
Yeah, I was very angry for a long time.
Tell me how you processed that.
I went off to college and realized that I was still holding on to that anger. And I was angry at God then. I was angry at that other driver. I know his name. I've never met him, but I know his name and it's ingrained in my brain. I had so much anger to him. Like, why didn't he slow down? And why didn't he pay attention? And now I can look back and go, accidents happen. Things happen. It's not that he did this on purpose or anything, but I was just so angry at him and at God.
How did that show up in your life? Where did it negatively impact your life?
I know that I put up a ton of walls, that I didn't have a lot of trust in people. And I don't know why it is specifically in people, because it's not like this individual did this specifically to me, but I lost a lot of trust in the world. I lost a lot of trust in people, and probably, if I'm honest, some trust in God. And so my anger was like, I have to even more so control everything. I have to even more so rely on myself and my own abilities because I can't trust anything that I used to know. I remember really feeling stuck in anger, probably my sophomore year of college. And I really just remember crying a lot about being so angry. And I'm like, I don't want to be this angry. I want to let go, but I just can't seem to let go of it. I'd find myself quickly getting upset when someone else got hurt. I remember being at church one day and I found out that this high school athlete star that I was in my Sunday school class, I loved her to death, that she had tore her ACL playing basketball. And I thought, this is the worst thing ever. How dare God steal this gift from her? This is what she loves and she's so good at. I had to leave church and go out in the car and just bawl. And my Sunday school class teacher came out and she was comforting me and she was like, this is not something you need to carry, not a burden that you need to carry. You need to work this out with God. And I had to really spend time in prayer. There was a series in college where I went through and I spent so much prayer over it. I took on my own faith really in college. And it was more about relationship with Jesus and less about the rules. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I could talk to Jesus about anything and I could pray about anything. And my anger is something I could pray about. And I had people recommending books to me on anger and how to handle that and process that. And it really boiled down to forgiveness. That I was so angry, I wasn't able to forgive him. And I knew I needed to, but it was a struggle. And it took me quite a few years to work through that, to let go of the anger and to really honestly forgive him. I think it was a really long, slow process. I think when I had moved to college, I was hours away from where I grew up and from anyone I knew. And so I started a kind of new environment in my life. And that really helped me take my faith on as my own and really dig into what I believe, why I believe it, and have that relationship with Jesus. And then I think he just worked on me over the years to lead me to that forgiveness and lead me away from that anger and lean to trust on him more. And then since then, I've seen big moments in my life where I've just had to trust him and I've been able to do it. And I think I wouldn't have if I hadn't gone through all of this.
Mm-hmm. With the forgiveness issue, was that also gradual, or do you remember a time where you felt like, I actually feel like I've forgiven him now?
I don't remember a specific day, but I remember a season where I'm like, you got to let it go. I don't feel the anger anymore. I've got to let this go. I've got to really forgive him. And I know that it wasn't something that this person did on purpose. I know that this could have been anybody. This could have been me causing an accident. I have to forgive him, and I do.
And then was there eventually a time when you kind of realized, I'm not carrying that anymore?
Oh, yeah. I felt a weight lifted. I don't feel that heaviness about the whole experience. I don't feel any anger about the experience anymore. Like, I'm not necessarily glad it happened, but I wouldn't change it because it's those things that shaped who you are today. And I wouldn't be the person I am today. I mean, metal and all, but I wouldn't be the person I am today spiritually. I wouldn't have the faith walk I have today. I wouldn't have the career I have today. I wouldn't have my faith that I have today if it wasn't for this bus accident.
Yeah, you said something earlier that you're thankful for most of it, which to many people, they hear that and it just is like, what? How is that? How is that even possible? How is that even possible?
Because if I had continued in my faith walk the way that I was, I thought I was fine. I probably wouldn't have ever changed anything. I probably would have still been about the structure and still been about the rules. And I wouldn't have felt the freedom to go search out Jesus on my own and make my faith my own instead of what was handed down to me. And so I feel like this helped lead me to that. It's also given me a whole lot of perspective and grace for other people who have gone through difficult situations or who have been in accidents or who have a broken leg and, or who are hurting in some way or another. I think it's opened my eyes to that and know that, life is short. People go through difficult things. I tell people all the time, like, this is just one of the things I've had to face. We all have our things that we face. And this is just one of the struggles I've faced. Because some people will be like, I can't believe this happened. But I'm like, I can. It's just something that happens. I know that you have struggles too. And I want people to know that I have compassion for that. It's not about my story. It's that everybody has that story. I still have a lot of pain in that right leg, especially during weather changes and things like that. I definitely can tell you when it's going to rain. But I actually almost find joy sometimes, not every day, in that because it reminds me of all of the days when I don't feel that pain and to be thankful for those days when the other days are not so fun. So there's one verse that stuck out to me. It's Romans 8:38 and 39. It's a real familiar verse to a lot of people, but it became the thing that I would hear over and over again in my head. And it's that nothing can separate us from the love of God, neither height nor depth, nor angel, nor demon, all of those things. Nothing can separate us from the love of God. Not a bus accident, not a struggle, not a question of your faith can separate you from his love. He's always going to be chasing you down with that love. And so that was ingrained in my brain through all of this of not another surgery can separate me from the love of God. Not another struggle or another setback in my recovery or whatever it may be in life. Nothing can separate me from the love of God.
Jenn gets to share about the love of God with thousands of people through the work that she does. She is the station manager at Spirit FM. It's a wonderful Christian radio station that broadcasts throughout Missouri. You can listen to Jenn weekday mornings and learn more about this amazing ministry at spiritfm.org. We are so grateful to Jenn for sharing her story. How has God used the stories you've heard on The Unfolding in your life? Is there a particular episode that's made a difference for you? I'd love it if you share your story with me. Doesn't have to be long. You can share a 2-minute story on our website, wowgod.com. Click on the Unfolding podcast page. You'll see a green microphone button. Just click, record your story, and send it to me. Hey, would you like to help this kind of inspiring storytelling grow? When you support the Wow God Podcast Network, you allow us to create podcasts where every story gives listeners a chance to say, Wow God. You can make a monthly gift of $40 or a gift of any size at wowgod.com. Thanks to the Unfolding team, Michael Shermack, Lindsay Caparoon, our amazing producer, and network director, Jason Rackow. The Unfolding is a Wow God production, a ministry of the University of Northwestern St. Paul. Discover more at wowgod.com. We'll be back next week with another page of The Unfolding.